Hello, welcome to Mixed Media. We are a weekly podcast every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, if you're on the West Coast like I am. And we are a podcast where three of us basically just talk about art in general, both in our individual fields and also just kind of art more broadly, art in society and things like that. So welcome if you are listening live. If you are listening to us in post, also hello. And I know we're having a whole bunch of technical problems right now. So, Irving, have you managed to figure out your microphone? No. Okay. So, I assume that Irving and his guest will be going first. I'm assuming that's the plan. So I guess we're gonna let me know when you're ready to go, and otherwise I guess I'll stall for time.
Well, how's your weekend been? Or not your weekend, your week.
My week has been, I don't know, it's been really busy with a whole bunch of different things, but also I've been trying to make some time to watch and listen to some different things. I got the Omni Music, which I know I've talked about in previous shows. One of the main publishers of film scores. They unfortunately last year they were only allowed to print a certain number of scores for James Horner's music for Willow, when they no longer can print it and sell it. But I acquired it via my school's interlibrary loan, so I got the score, listened to it, watched the film. That was interesting. That's a really interesting and funny score. Deserves some mention at some point when I have some more time to reflect on it. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing.
Gotcha. All right, it looks like we have everything fixed, well, at least visually speaking. I noticed that the blur effect in the background sort of blurs my hair, so it looks like I have very little hair. But that's besides the point. Anyway, is your mic fixed there?
Yes, everything is in order. I actually have no idea how you guys were hearing me at all because my mic was off. And also, I was muted on my phone. So there was some magical device. Do I sound different now than I did before?
I don't think so.
I have no idea what happened there. Pretty crazy. But yeah, I'm Irving Nestor. I'm a media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella, and I'm excited to talk to our guest today. So, yeah.
Sounds good.
Did everyone else introduce themselves, or?
Oh, not really. I guess we'll do that. I'm Nathan. I'm a game developer and a 3D modeler.
My name is Robert Sharma, and I'm the CEO of a production company called R&S Films, and also a film student, filmmaker, future script writer, and director.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't introduce myself. So if you don't know, you didn't watch any of our other shows, because I'm talking about film music. My name is Ben Costello. I am a flute player and a media composer.
Yeah, and I'll just do the little intro spiel real quick. We are Mixed Media. I think Ben said a lot of stuff about who we are exactly at the beginning of the show. But a few things to keep in mind that I keep bothering everyone about on the show is we want to be on Rumble Live. So that costs us money. So in order for us to do that, in order for us to meet that goal and to expand the show's audience, in order to extend some perks that we've been thinking about, maybe even do like a virtual film festival, a whole bunch of ideas in the bag. But what we really need is support. So if you go to mixedmedia.locals.com, you'll find that you can support us for $5 a month. If we just get a few people, we'll be off the ground for sure. And I love seeing the growth it's slow and steady wins the race kind of thing. But what really helps the most is if we can get some support right now. We're kind of at that point. So yeah, mixedmedia.locals.com, and any link that you need is in the description, whether it's our Discord group, whether it's our Instagram, wherever you want to find us, we have links in the description where you can follow us. Discord's pretty awesome because we get to continue the conversations after the show. So yeah, did I miss anything?
Awesome.
I don't think so.
I would love to support us all. That'd be great.
Yeah, for sure.
With that.
Yeah. So I guess we'll get going, right? Are we all good?
Yep.
Okay. So, Rob. First of all, how are you doing today? How's everything?
Oh man, it's been a pretty wild month and a half and a wild week. A lot of busy things going on with work and then with the future projects that we're working on. I'm excited. I was excited last week to possibly do this, but then I had to go to work. And it just so happens that, when time happens, it always happens at the perfect timing, right?
Mhm.
So it wasn't meant to be last week. It's meant to happen today. So that's the way I look at it. I'm very optimistic about that. And I believe in positivity and manifesting, that into the universe.
Yeah, and I've known you for a while now. Yeah, for a good time now. I've been talking to you for a good time now. But for those out there who don't know who you are, give us a rundown. Like, where are you from? And I guess really the question is, how did you get to the point where you started doing film stuff? Which I know is a really long story, but feel free to go on.
It has been a long time venturing into film. Of course, I've done other things, and kind of like how sometimes actors and people that are in film worked all kinds of side odd jobs and stuff in their life, that you never even thought that they would have done, what happened actually 2000 and so when I had left work a couple of years ago, because I got diagnosed with that PTSD, because I served, and it slowly crept up on me over the years. I didn't even know I had it. I had anxiety, but didn't really know that I heard of PTSD, but I never thought I had it. So when it finally hit me, I had left work for a while. I'm still in the same company with Homeland Security. I've done that forever. When I first came out from the service, I worked a lot in Border Patrol, but that was before it became Homeland Security. This was like before 9/11, right? So when I had left work, it kind of gave me an option to venture out, and do a lot of thinking. And I was going through therapy, and just accidentally just came back to me, how the world happens, something that I wasn't thinking at the time and I thought about years ago just happened to land in my mind at the right time, at the right place. That was when I was sitting at my sister's porch in Venice Beach, and I had the idea of looking up Jim Morrison and trying to figure out where he might have resided in Venice Beach, because I know he had a pretty big life in as an artist and as a celebrity there,
Mm-hmm.
So I sat there and I just on my phone I looked up Jim Morrison and Venice Beach. So I happened to bump into this whole YouTube thing that they had called Room 32. And it's like, whoa, what's that? And so throughout the years, a lot of people have gone there to that room in West Hollywood, and they did like little YouTube videos, nothing big. Nobody done anything like I did, that I put together. So when I realized that, the story just kind of crept into my mind. So the name of the film actually came later, the title. And I just started writing a bunch of notes, and like how you hear how most people write film, you talk to some filmmakers and they'll tell you that they wrote a bunch of notes everywhere, like scrambled around, and it just took some time to finally put together like a puzzle. And when we happened to have it, it was just, we knew. That's when I met Irving at the right time. And I say timing is one of those things where you have to have it. It has to be universal. It either happens or doesn't happen. And we were very lucky to bump into each other in this life. And it's a pleasure to be here, and pleasure to know Irving, and now his brother, and and his friend, and it's, we're gonna grow together. And I have a very strong vision of where we're gonna take this. So when I wrote Door 32, and like I said, the name came afterwards. I just started thinking about Jim Morrison, but I didn't want to write a film using him as his name, and then Pam Corson, because I'm a new guy, and I was like, the last thing I want to do is barely stepping into the industry and then boom, I'm getting sued,
Yeah.
So, yeah, by the estate of Jim Morrison, right? I mean, what a way to come into the film industry.
Yeah.
So you're like, what an introduction, right? I'm on the news. So
you truly make a name for yourself that way.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah, definitely. And and then like when I started writing the film, and I started getting more deeper into the vision of how I wanted the film to be. I mean, of course, it's non-fictional, so we're not using any of the names. I came up with my own names of the character. And what's really funny, when me and Irving were talking, after he had read it the first time and told me to have it reformatted. So the minute I got it reformatted and gave it to him, he was like, he just took a second to read it and says, that's it. That's all, I can understand it now. And I was like, wow, like I didn't even understand like how he did that. Like, 'cause I'm new, so I didn't understand the reformatting process or what it was, And
Yeah.
so he taught me a lot. I mean, of course I'm a film student, but and that actually, when I started writing Door 32, it put me in the right position to venture into film. So that script got me to get the guts to, follow through. And I never thought of R&S Films, I had other businesses on the side, t-shirt business that I had for years, and a coffee business that Irving knows about that I had. And it just next thing you know, I just came up with R&S Films. And like I said, it's one of those things I've always been good at, is coming up with names.
Mm.
Like every single business name I've always had, like for instance, California Style Brand. Before that, I had that t-shirt label Lucky Charms, which is that email address that I have, my last name without the A at the end, adding an S. So it became Lucky Charms. Almost sounds like the cereal,
Yeah.
But, that pushed me into when I branded reformatted everything for that business and thought of a new business name. I came out with California Style Brand, and I realized that everything that I kind of sort of, I mean, I don't want to say that, like everything I touch turns gold, right? That's not solid gold, There's only one person that can do that, Snoop Dogg, right? Everything he touches turns to gold. Right?
Yeah.
But and I mean that now, but
yeah,
no, it's just,
that's why
amazing. It's an amazing thing. I mean, and it's an amazing thing when you have that gift and when you realize you have a gift.
Yeah, no, I just want to ask you though, like to take it back a little bit. What is like? Yeah, I know you started writing Door 32, which is the film that we're working. One of the projects that we're working on together. But what made you interested in putting pen to paper and actually doing screenwriting and film in the first place? Like, what was the, have you always been into film, viewed yourself as a filmmaker at all, or like, how'd that work out,
Yeah, I've always been very big on old film. Um, Not really always with silent films, but I've always had a love for black and white film.
Mm.
And I knew that when I was a kid growing up, everything that I saw just kind of seemed to come out in black and white in my mind. And I thought of my life. I just told my dad this recently. I said, my dad asked me the same question. I said, Dad, I always looked at my life personally as a story, as a movie. And I kind of played this character and, kind of made up characters. And, and I remember I was in high school and I took drama. And I realized, oh man, I really don't think I want to be like an actor. I knew that pretty early, even though later on throughout the years, like now, I'm pretty confident as far as, talking and being in front of cameras and stuff. But back then I was, very young. And first time I went on stage, man, I was this little skinny, scrawny kid, which I have the VHS. I want to put that on. I want to put that on DVD so you guys can take a look at it someday. And so that was really cool to look back at. I did kind of, as a kid, try to venture out and try to get into film. And, it was just really tough because, building a portfolio back in those days, people were kind of really, they knew people wanted to get into film. And what they would do is they would make you spend so much money building a portfolio book, taking pictures and all that stuff. And at the end, you realize that it wasn't about you. They just wanted to make money off of you, and they didn't care if you can get a job or anything like that. And, and then so as far as films, I've always been a big James Dean guy, Marilyn Monroe, Natalie Woods, all the old guys, Yeah. And so when I was a little bit in my 20s, early 20s, at one point I had it was an accidental thing, like how things happen in an accident, but I went and I found out where Marilyn Monroe was buried, and I went to her mausoleum, and it was really crazy because I ended up meeting, and it was really weird how it happened. I bought a book. It was a true story. I bought this book, and it was about Marilyn Monroe, that her sisters wrote this book. And so in the back, there was an address. And I literally just wrote to this address. And how things happen in life. I got the universe, it just brought it to me. I got a letter back. And I got invited to this fan club annual birthday event that they had for her. Yeah, in Westwood. And so I went out there with a friend of mine. I took her with me from work, and we went to this thing, and I have a whole bunch of pictures, brother. Oh my God. Like pictures of her actual dresses and pants and all kinds of real, like I was sitting on her couch that they had there. So I got to share that with you guys later on. But it was really cool to be there. I've never been to her actual house. That's not going to happen because the person who owns it is very private now. But it's a beautiful house. It's that Spanish, kind of like a, what is it called? It's like that Spanish, what is it called? Like, yeah, like that. Really nice house. But,
oh no, looks like, is Rob frozen on your end too, Nathan? Oh no, everyone's frozen. Give me 1 second. Can you guys hear and see me still? Okay, I think. Can you guys hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me. I can't hear you guys. That's the problem. Okay, that's strange, because I think Skype's like NDI system just like imploded. So let me. I think I might have to restart my editor, which means I have to pull the stream down, which really sucks. But give me a second. I don't know. I don't know what it is like about. Oh no, I can't hear you guys. Hold on.
Hold on 1 second.
Oh, I fixed it without having to restart my editor. There we go.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
That was wild. Something about like, I don't know, was something about Ben coming in like just crashed the entire Skype system there. I have no idea why. But it's not your fault, Ben. It was just like my computer just freaked out for some reason.
I don't know what, like, I got on my laptop and like it wouldn't recognize my webcam, and like I don't know, so I just tried to go back to the phone, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not your fault though. I don't know what the heck happened. It like closed my Skype.
Am I looking all right? Because I'm seeing myself a little bit blocked out. I can see my right shoulder kind of.
On my screen, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds all right. So where was I at? Let me go ahead and continue.
Yeah.
So the first time we drove out to, I know Ben kind of, did you hear what I was saying, or you had walked away, right? But you could hear what I was talking about, right?
Yeah, I heard everything.
Okay.
Just wasn't visible for everything.
Yeah, perfect. So I was there at this birthday thing that they were having for her. They actually cut a cake and all that stuff. It was really pretty interesting. And then, I ended up getting an autograph of this lady that was there who knew Marilyn Monroe, and she was her first hairstylist. Mm. And so I happened to get her autograph. I mean, I didn't really know who she was then, But again, I'm 46 now, so this was when I was about 24. Quite some time. Time flies really fast. But so anyway, so we go over there, and I've never been there. I've seen pictures of it, and how kooky this thing is, right? How spooky things happen, right? So we get there, and first of all, when Marilyn Monroe was first buried there, encrypted there, the building that's there in front of it wasn't there before. There's a state building right in front of it. A huge building. So it's in Westwood. So when you're driving, I didn't use my navigation at the time. We didn't have navigation then, right? My navigation was all here, or like, so we pull up, and then I pull up and I ask the security guard, I go, sir, I'm here to at the Westwood Cemetery. He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, you just go to your left. It's right behind the building. So he let us in. We went, and sure enough, you pull in, and it's a whole cemetery. It's a small cemetery right behind this building. It's amazing. Really beautiful cemetery. I mean, I've never, I'll get into the ghost stories later on, as far as that experience when I was younger, but which is another story. But so we pull up and we park. We didn't ask anybody. We didn't know the caretaker was around. We got out. I parked my car. We got out. We're walking, and boom, I turn, and it's right there. And my friend looks at me, Tara goes, whoa. This is crazy. It's like you got led to her. I go, yeah, that's amazing. How things can happen like that. And I'm a fond believer that we think that people, when they go from this world, are gone, which is true physically, but the essence or the energy of the person still lingers. And it's just that energy, some people say ghost or whatever. you know. And so like so we ended up I paid my respects there, took some pictures, and at that time we walked around and I saw Heather York's from Portuguese. Her she's encrypted there. Dean Martin, Natalie Wood. There's a whole bunch of other ones that are there that I didn't know at the time, but Don Knotts is there. So next time I go out there, I would like to visit him as well. And so then that kind of really, I mean, at that time, I didn't know I wanted to get into making film, right? I had all these images in my head, and I never wrote a script before, you know, none of that. So when I wrote the script, it was all freelance at the beginning for Door 32. It was just, I mean, I can just say that it happened, and it was God given that it happened, you know, and it led us into bumping into each other, you know, which this relationship that we built now, Nestor. I mean, it's a precious, it's a gift to have, you know, and the work we're going to be doing. But and Nestor knows sometimes I kind of, because I don't know if that's the PTSD, but I've always had a hard time focusing on just one thing I'm talking about. I'll kind of move into other areas, like, you know, like you're dodging, like left and right, you know.
We'll say it's a feature of being a creative.
Probably so. But a lot of things happened to me when I was a kid, and that kind of also got me to have a really big imagination. And, you know, in film, you're lucky if you have a big imagination, if you're a visionary, if you could think out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people, they go to take classes for film, and then they have a hard time. They don't have that imagination. You know, you look at some of the wonderful people in the past, Robin Williams, right? I mean, he was gifted, and he had an imagination that was beyond anybody could ever even think of, you know? And because he was an out of the box thinker. He thought of the most craziest, weirdest things, and didn't care if people highly criticized him for it or something, you know? Like, and so yeah, like when I was a kid, the very first thing that happened to me, I think I told Irving about this. It was a paranormal event that I experienced, the very first one. So I was about 12 years old, and I saw what I know was a demonic figure, and it never left me. I mean, it always been there in my mind. I mean, I got less spooked about it now than I used to be maybe 10, 20 years ago. It would still bug me. I would feel like I was cursed because of it, you know? You know, like there was a shadow following me around for, you know, whatever. But, you know, it was just very interesting thing to see as a kid. And not everybody, I guess, has that third eye, you know? They say people are just gifted when they're born, and some people can just be clairvoyant and see other things or hear other things. And when I was a lot younger, that was the case. And I remember a lot of times I would feel like I got pushed off the bed, and I would crawl out of my room and jump into my parents' room, and they can't remember any of it when I bring it up to this day. They can't remember it. And so it's really interesting that happened to me when I was a kid. And if that opened up my mind, then maybe I could in some way be thankful for it. You know, now, right? You know, but the most scariest film I saw when I was a kid was Exorcist. And so when I was about 11 years old, my cousin, who was my older cousin, like a bigger brother, made me watch that film. And I had no right to watch that film as an 11-year-old kid. And it scared me so bad, man. To this day, I cannot watch that film. I just cannot. I have a buddy that could watch that, and every Halloween, and I expect him to do it, plays a prank on me. He's going to send me a text with that video. He does it to me every year. So, you know, we all have one of those, right?
Yeah. I mean, you would say that it affects like the kinds of films you want to make, right? Like I think Well, I mean, we're the one we're working on right now is somewhat of a horror film, right? I haven't seen the script yet, but
Yeah,
it's somewhat of a horror film.
it was definitely accidental as well. And
Mhm.
it's really funny because I thought about it. When I wrote Door 32, I was one of those kind of artists or one of those kind of first timers that thought, is this going to be the only one?
Yeah, it's always how it feels like. Yep.
Right?
Mhm.
Like, was it just like that one shot deal that I got lucky that it came to me and I just put it together? And that was before I had that sequence thought of about the Door 32 sequence, right? Which kind of also had it happen in a very odd event, right? Because I had a really bad flu, and this is before COVID, and I had a really this is really before 2020. Early before that, it was like October of 2019. I got a really bad virus, and it was just like I went like to 107 degree temperature. But it's so weird that I was sleeping on the couch and I had that dream, and I wrote a little bit of a cabin in the woods, which was supposed to be the sequence to Door 32.
Yeah.
But so when I wrote Door 32, I didn't think I was gonna, nevertheless, I never thought even of stepping into film industry, right? So it just happened and it all kind of came together. But now, as far as when 2020 happened, we had to push Door 32, further out. And then 2021 came. We thought we were going to start working on it earlier. And then Delta came up and we still pushed that aside. So then about 2 months ago is when the Hooded Man came to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not physically, but it was just really weird because it happened to me where I was at work and I was inside this empty warehouse and I just had the idea of the film. And I never thought about doing a horror film. I really didn't know where to place myself as far as the documentary kind of non-fictional Door 32 film. I never knew where to kind of place my footsteps, next. Whether I was going to be doing all documentary films in my career, or am I going to do action films, or am I going to do comedy? I didn't really know where to place myself. It's weird to say that I feel comfortable with the horror now. And I never was, like I said, big on horror film. Exorcist scared me so badly. I never liked watching scary movies. My scary movies growing up was more funny than scary. Was like Nightmare on Elm Street, right? Freddy Krueger, right? I mean, he's really a funny character more than than anything. We talk like about it.
A fun slasher, the slashers, yeah,
and the sequential films that they kept creating of that character, kind of also it's very different than Halloween, right? I mean, with Michael Myers, he's more scary in a way where he's just kind of stalking his victims and killing them one by one, right? And it's just more of a serial killer than anything, right? If you really think about it,
Mm-hmm.
And so then, so when this Hooded Man came up, it was really, really, really amazing when it happened, because what I mean, it depends. Now we talk about marijuana, right? And marijuana, how it's good and bad. And now that it's legalized, right? I never thought I would say this ever. I never thought I would say this because I was a big time smoker, and I'm actually addiction free from other things for a long time. Good to say, it took a long time, but I've been clean from everything for so long. And I think I've been prepared by somebody, up in the, in the higher realm to get to where I'm at, right? I'm a survivor, right? I mean, like, I could have been gone a long time ago with the things in the life I was living, right? And so, so then with this marijuana thing, as of recent, I've been clean a month and week now. And the weird thing is I tried to quit smoking marijuana, not because I felt like it was an addiction. I never thought it was an addiction. I liked it. I enjoyed doing it. You know, I can't lie, because it helped me with my PTSD and all that stuff. You know how it's legalized now, right? Mm-hmm. But it was getting to me, you know, and I knew Irving kind of didn't say it, because Irving is like a kind of a real gentle giant kind of a character, you know, the soft voice, you know, you know, and then at the earlier on stages, you know, we'd go and have these meetings and I'll be high or something, and we won't get a lot of production put into it, you know, we won't be productive, you know. And I wanted, it was kind of making me feel guilty. Like I want to focus on this career and I have something great. I can't just continue to just, you know, smoke and smoke. Because what happened was it was becoming where it was a daily thing. It wasn't like I was smoking to just relax anymore. On my days off, 24 hours, I would smoke. And it just, I didn't realize that I had a bad habit. You know, it's like smoking cigarettes, you know? So once it started to get into my mind as to, hey, I need to challenge this, right? Or it's going to really do something where I'm not going to be able to focus and I'm going to lose everything that I have that I don't want to lose, right? Including people around me, you know? So weirdly, I came across this EVP energy reader. He's on YouTube, and I'll send you that link so you can take a look at it. There's a lot of people that are starting to do this kind of stuff, but and it's so weird that it just started happening on YouTube. But I found Craig, and it's really funny because he was in a movie called what was the name of the film? I'll think about it afterwards. It's a really weird name of a film. Something tomatoes. I don't know.
Is it a documentary or a fictional film?
Yeah, it was some movie that he was in. I never heard of the guy. He's a Australian actor, but it's funny because he doesn't have an accent when I always watch his videos, and I didn't think he was Australian at all. And so anyway, so I emailed the guy randomly because I was always interested in the paranormal activity, right? In the back of my mind, because I wanted to know what I saw when I was a kid. You know, I've been to everybody and asked them a question and nobody could tell me what it was. And I'm like, well, it can't be a dream because I still remember it as an adult that vividly, right? It just can't be a dream. I mean, dreams are something as a kid, you can't remember that vividly, you know, a lot of times. I think this was such a scary event that it stuck with me. And so I hit him up. I said, hey, man, you know, I'm interested in one of your sessions. So he tried hypnotherapy on me, hypnosis. On the last day I smoked was on 9/11, and I happened to go to my niece's birthday party afterwards, and just really got really drunk, man, really messed up. It was a combination of earlier smoking and drinking, all that other stuff. I didn't like the way I felt. I didn't like the way I felt afterwards when I got home, and the headache and all that stuff. So I hit him up, and he did hypnosis on me. I believe it was on the 13th of September. And not a craving since. I don't know how he did it. I can't explain it to you. I can't explain how hypnosis works. That was the first time I ever went under hypnosis. It wasn't a scary event as far as like, you know, oh, like, did I die and come back, you know? You know, it was just like us talking. It was through Zoom. And it was just like he snapped his finger, man. And I don't know, man, I remember waking up and my neck and shoulders were hurting. So I must have been like, you know, you know, and I have a pretty bad neck issue, you know, so, but he woke me up and I couldn't remember really as to like all the things that we talked about, or he never really went over a lot of it, but the next day, not a single craving from the next day until now. And this is my day off. Usually on my day off, you know how it was. Yeah. From the minute I woke up, from the minute I got home from work in the morning, 24 hours. till I knock out at nighttime. So that's how bad it was, you know. And from going from that, and it's a true story, man. It's a true story, 110%.
Yeah, and now that you're good and stuff, yeah, what is your, well, actually, I guess I have two questions. What do you look forward to the most in terms of going forward? Like, what are you looking forward to the most? Maybe even describe what Door 32 is, like, more in detail, and maybe the Hooded Man as well. But yeah, I'm sure you look forward to, like, getting to move on all these things.
Yeah. Well, this is awesome, man, that we get to finally talk about this, and it's in the universe now, right? I mean, it's more than just the vision that I had before it was on paper, before it, you did the storyboard, right? And here we are, like, talking about this for the first time. So Door 32, it's about Jim Morrison. Jim Morrison stayed in this room for a couple of years.
Wait. I want to stop you real quick, because it's not about Jim Morrison. That would be a problem. It's inspired by Jim Morrison. That's what it is.
Inspired, yeah. Oh, thank you for letting me know that.
Inspired by the life of Jim Morrison.
Did you press something? It stopped on my side?
You're still good on my screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll retrace that, okay? Did we cut that out?
Yeah, we will. Everything will be edited in the final podcast.
Right. Thanks for catching me on that. So it's inspired by, yeah, you're right. Inspired by Jim Morrison. I got the idea by, when I first looked it up, and I found information about this YouTube videos that people were doing from around the world coming out here. They were big fans of his and followers, and they just sort of like just went to this room over the last several years or decades, and since he's been gone, and really just like imprinted their poetry all over this room. I mean, this room, it's something you got to see. When you get a chance, look it up on YouTube. You'll see videos of this place. It's literally has artwork from the ceiling to everywhere.
And they charge you they charge you extra to stay in that room, right? Like at that motel.
They don't charge you extra. They don't charge you extra, but remember what happened, right? The first time I shot out to try to go out there and take a look at the room and stuff, I had the wrong idea, and I kind of stepped on my own toe, in a sense.
They tried to scam you. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really weird, but so like now, anyhow, so I came across this video, and these fans, and then it came to an idea of like, hey, earlier stages, when I started thinking about the idea of a film, and nobody ever put a film about this room, I knew I had something. And so I started writing, and when it started coming to me, I thought of like something where a Quentin Tarantino type of film, where you're going back in time and you're doing a film where it's not necessarily in black and white, but it's more 70-ish, where like
very Tarantino.
Where like the Katie Hart character, when she first pulls up, I visioned her pulling up in this Cadillac that was like, kind of like just beat up looking and loud, and when she first pulls up in the film and she parks, and just her character, the way she's going to look, it's going to be awesome. People are going to get that idea of like a 70s type of film, with depending on the music we add in there, because I don't want to use anybody else's, music, and especially not Jim Morrison's, right? But did you freeze up, brother? You're good.
Yeah, you looks like you froze.
Yeah, my phone died. Usually when I do these things, my phone is charging, but it looks like it wasn't actually charging. So you can keep talking. I can hear everything.
I've never seen so many technical difficulties.
So it's like when she first pulls up, and these guys are gonna understand, when they see the movie later on when we're done, and unless you try to share the script with them to at least take a look at it, which we're probably not going to do, unless you guys are involved in the film itself, right? at some point or somehow, in a sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna kind of put a little image out there as far as it's gonna have like a 70 feel to it, a little bit of comedy to it, a lot of cigarette smoking, you know, and because Jim Morrison was a huge marijuana smoker, and he did other drugs as well, which obviously we know how his life ended. But so again, this film is not about him, but it's, you know,
Inspired by
him. And so Katie Hart pulls up, and I thought about it when she pulls up and how she was gonna look, and it just was so perfect in my head, brother. Like I wish I could draw it out, you know. I wish like we had like a machine where instead of you trying to get everything from your mind to a piece of paper, which sometimes you get writer's block, you know. It's like I wish there was some sort of like real scientific machine where you could get it from, you know, the data from your brain and how it looks and put it on. Like that would be too easy, right? It's like recording your dream, you know, in a sense, right? And playing it back, you know. And so I pictured her pulling up, getting out of the car. The wolf, who is supposed to be inspired by Jim Morrison. So he's sitting in the hotel room and he hears her pull up. He's waiting for his audition, the girl to audition for the film that he's writing. Because in a really weird way, people are going to understand later on. I don't want to give it out, so I'll stop right there. But and Irving, I want you to stop me, man, when you think I'm giving out too much.
I think we've got the gist enough. It's very, like, the thing that I really loved about it when I read it, especially, yeah, the formatting. If you want you know, your stories in a film to translate very well, this is just for people out there. Formatting does matter in the sense that, like, gives you like a common language that people can understand, like what exactly you're trying to do and say. So I remember when the first time I read it, I was like, I'm not so sure. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what's going on in your mind. But when you sent it back to me in screenplay format, it made a lot more sense. And immediately I was like, I like the really. It's a very sweet short. I really like the sweetness of it.
Right. Put a lot of passion into it, into building the characters. I didn't want to depict their characters as like the way that they've been, you know, depicted, you know, throughout time, you know, as like drug addicts, rock and roll stars, you know, whatever, 60s wild childs, you know, right? There was a lot more to it. So they had in real life, you know, I mean, again, you know, it's not about them, but they had like this love between each other that was that when they died, it's still, I believe they're together, you know. That was like they were like they were bonded, you know, for life. And so yeah, I mean, I put a lot of that into it, and then I was like, you know what, I felt a lot of emotion into it too, because it was like, you know, I know I'm inspired by, you know, them when I wrote this, but I was like thinking before, you know, we release it, before we start making it, I would like to go out and visit where she's buried at, you know, Jim Morrison's live-in wife. I guess they did get married, but it wasn't like a formal marriage. And so yeah, I mean, I want to do that before, just to kind of make amends to, I guess, spirit, you know, right? That, hey, you know, I'm inspired by your guys' life. And this would have never happened if you guys would have never existed.
Yeah.
Right? Because you wouldn't have nothing to be inspired about, right?
Yeah,
And
no, for sure.
So I want to do that. And it's really funny because I wasn't a big fan of going to any kind of cemeteries. Like most people are fear of like death and going to a cemetery, right? You know, it's spooky and ooh, you know, right? And so it's just really weird because then fast forwarding up until recent, about the beginning of this year, I came across a lot of vloggers that somehow are now going out to a lot of celebrity grave sites and doing vlog videos on their YouTube, you know, and it's nice to see that when they're doing it, and like the way I look at it, you have to do it with good taste. You have to do it with respect. You know, they were once alive. These were human beings. You know, you can't just, you know, go and try to badmouth the dead, right? In a sense, right? Or talk bad about them and create bad things about their image, you know, after they're gone. So I like that, you know, and then like, so, you know, that basically, you know, put things into perspective for that film, you know, and I told Kay, the girl who's going to play Katie Hart, you know, it'd be nice for us to go out there and pay respects. I found out where she's buried at. And it's a small little, tiny little, she's what do you call it? Interned into this little tiny, I believe she was cremated. It's just this really tiny little mausoleum. It's like, wow, you know? And Jim Morrison, you know, he's buried in Paris, so it's really hard to go out there. And people that do go out there, really, you can't do a lot because because people did a lot of vandalism out there for so long. They have this gate and everything there, and you can't stay, you know, people try to stay there overnight, you know, and things like that. And, you know, they kind of lose track of in their mind that, yeah, they were celebrities and superstars, but you got to have respect for the dead, you know?
Yeah.
Just like you go and visit your grandfather or grandmother or somebody's grandmother, you know, you don't want family, if they have family still around. Oh man, dude, this guy's like out there hanging around, you know, lighting candles and stuff, you know, trying to wake up the dead or something. That's not what we're going to do, you know? And so then like, now it's so funny that after that hypnosis thing I did, that and that got me into cleansing myself, detoxing. One of the things about marijuana that does, and a lot of drugs that does to you, is if you have a gift that you're born with, let's just say you're clairvoyant or whatever, psychic or anything, after years of using any kind of narcotics or drugs or abusing it, it blocks off your third eye in a sense, right? Like you get kind of foggy, and you lose your gift in a sense. It's not gone, but you just kind of don't. It's like when you go to sleep and you don't have a dream. A lot of people that smoke marijuana for a long time, they don't have dreams. I used to be like that. I'll wake up, I would go through months and months and months, even a year without dreaming, because I smoked it so long. Not a single dream. I might have dreamt, but I didn't remember anything.
Yeah.
So when I started cleaning and doing the detox about a month ago, I started getting REM sleep, started having vivid dreams again, you know. It felt good. It felt good to have natural sleep and natural dreams again, you know, like, wow, you know. And not necessarily, I haven't had any nightmares or anything like that, but I used to have a lot of nightmares when I was a kid. But yeah, so that was really cool. And then, you know, it's just one of those things, you know, it's like he told me that I have a gift and it was always there, not necessarily to do EVP, but I can venture into doing EVP. And I asked him, can you teach me how to do it? And you're talking to a person who doesn't like scary movies or mess with paranormal and stuff. And I started learning a little bit about it and doing some of it.
Rob, before you get into that, we've gone on a little bit long, so I think maybe sorry, my computer is my phone is still dead, so you can't see me. I tried to load it up several times already, and then it dies every time I turn it on. So I'll come back in a moment, hopefully by the next segment. But we because Nathan and Ben have their own segments, so we're going on a little bit long. But we can have you back on at any time. So I have one more question for you though before we move on. This is a question I ask everyone, and it's kind of out of left field, but what is your biggest hot take, or like essentially what's your biggest controversial opinion about something that's happening in Hollywood, about films in general, or anything like that? Do you have any like guilty pleasure films, or like stuff like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess, with the awards, how they were saying throughout the years that a lot of, how they would like give awards to more like the white group of actors, and how a lot of other ethnicities thought that they weren't getting enough, recommendation, and so. I think that really something that is interesting to me. Coming into film and being of my background and my ethnicity, I really would like to bring people together, man. Like, really just look at the art form and celebrating the art, and not excluding people, and pushing people out, and just hiring like a certain group of people, I don't want to segregate anything. We can't segregate.
Yeah, for
we
sure.
have to bring everybody together. This is our art form, and we have a passion and a love for it, and a love for each other.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And there's sometimes people, they think they're doing well by the industry, and then they end up segregating people instead, which is the sad thing. But
it's interesting how they have a lot of Korean, movies coming out, and it's kind of cool to see, Korean writers, and even like Indians. I have a Indian from India in me, and then I was born in Fiji Island, so I was some kind of like Fijian Indian. And then I also have Dutch in me, and a small smidget of Italian somewhere that I found out. And the Dutch is really funny because my mom's father was very light skinned, and he was born in Kingston Town, Jamaica.
Wow.
Yeah, very light skin, it was just interesting how he ended up being born in Kingston Town, Jamaica during the slavery times,
Wow.
Yeah, and it was so funny because my mom told me he worked for this British man, and he was a camera guy for him. So I'm like, whoa. Okay, could I have gotten that from him?
Yeah, for sure.
And my dad, they always had like a lot of photography in them. So I think I'm at the right place because of it. Yeah. And I have a lot to learn still. I don't know everything. And it's a pleasure to meet others who also are in the business, in the industry, or connected somehow. And it feels great to just be here. And I'm really blessed that Irving, invited me. That itself right there, because you don't just get invited, to things like that, into a circle.
Yeah, for sure. Right? Yeah. Great. No, thanks for being on. I'm sorry that I'm like I've disappeared for the last bit of it.
Now I know I kind of like I didn't answer all the questions, but the Hooded Man I think you guys are gonna like, because it's a horror film, a lot of action, and it's a lot about paranormal activity and a lot of things flying around. When I wrote that and I pictured that, basically I'll say it in this way: it reminded me a lot of Blair Witch, the way I'm gonna film it. So I think it'll be good on budget, and it'll give me a lot more openness to do things the way I want to do it.
Yeah, and as that project goes, I'll probably invite you on to talk about the Hooded Man at some point specifically, especially as we go into production or something like that. Have fun talking about the production. But in the meantime, if you want to, this doesn't apply to the live podcast, but if you're watching in post, then I will put some links in the description to Rob's websites and stuff like that, where you can go find him, check him out, tell him that we sent you here at Mixed Media, and yeah, that's it's been a great time. Thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Definitely interesting.
Take care.
Yep, take care. Yep, you can hang up whenever you want, just so you know, on your end. All right.
All right. Thank you, guys. I'll see you guys soon.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on.
Take care. All right. Let me figure myself out real quick. But that was a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Rob's always an interesting guy, and I first talked to him like a year and a half ago, so it's kind of strange, like how long I've been talking to him. But yeah, so if anyone's out there watching, we're going to switch to the next segment. Just give me 1 second. Oh, looks like Rob's still here. Hello.
You know what? I'm gonna hang up my phone. I'm gonna turn off my phone, and then they'll probably log me out, and I'll turn it back on.
Okay.
Okay, no worries.
All right, guys. Take care. I'll catch up with you guys next time.
Yep, catch you later.
Irving.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks.
All right. Welcome.
All right. Sorry about the technical difficulties this time around. The thing is, like, it looked very like it was going to be smooth sailing going into it, and then like as soon as I hit the live button, everything kind of just exploded all at once.
Yeah, wow. We have lots of issues so far, huh?
Yeah. Let me get the next slide going, and then we should be good. Sorry about that.
All right.
Oh no, that is more technical problems. That is Daniel Matsumoto's name, a nameplate I made like it feels like a million years ago for when he was on the show. Let me see. Give me a second. Okay. There we are, sort of. Oh, and now I muted you, Ben. Give me a second.
In fact, yeah, it'd probably be better if I go next because I do have to go soon. I have a meeting for club, so.
Okay. Yeah. Are these every week, by the way? These
Yeah, every week.
Gotcha. Yeah. I was planning on doing you next anyway. Let me just get this. Wow, this is a problem apparently. Reset all. There we go. That's what we just did. Interviewing with Rob Sharma. There we go. All right. And next we are doing that says the wrong thing. It says all about NFTs. See, we're having a million and one different problems.
Oh wait, you know what's relevant?
What?
You know what's relevant? Steam does not allow Steam removed a game from their store that included NFTs because you can't have crypto in your games, just like that.
That's a really random rule.
Yeah,
why can't you have crypto in your games?
You can and can't, or the guidelines of what you can upload. It's like the last rule out of like 8, something like that. It's like you can't have crypto. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's really random. Considering a lot of games have currencies that are linked to markets.
I don't know, dude.
Yeah. All right.
Pull up the exact thing.
Okay. Yeah. Buy me time.
Is it fixed already? Oh, it's fixed. Oh, it's not fixed. Never mind.
No.
I'll pull it up then. We have time. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Rules and guidelines. Number 13. It says, quote, applications built on blockchain technology that issue or allow exchange of cryptocurrencies or NFTs.
So applications that have supreme security are. This is what that translates to.
I don't know. This is kind of.
I just gotta say though, like if you got in on that Bitcoin because I told you to, you might be very happy as of lately. Is all I'm gonna say. I didn't tell you to though. Sorry, because I informed you of what I was doing, and if you copied me, I should say that instead. If you happen to have copied me, which I do not endorse.
So you could potentially do if you wanted to on your own accord.
Yes, exactly. But that is your own informed decision that you should make your own informed decisions about. Yeah, there might be a Bitcoin. This is random news that I'm going to spat out right now while I'm trying to fix my setup. Bitcoin it might be on the New York Stock Exchange soon. So that is very exciting because it legitimizes the crypto space even further. So I'm excited about that. As a futures thing, so it's not like you can trade Bitcoin literally on the market, but that's neither here nor there because if you're not buying Bitcoin on an exchange, what are you doing? This is more for the Wall Street suits to feel better about buying Bitcoin rather than downloading Coinbase. Yeah, there's that. Actually, we could just do the news segment right now.
The news segment.
Yeah. Well, let's just do it right now while I'm fixing this.
All right. Well, that was my news. The Steam thing with the another thing, yeah. So a new Metroid game came out not a while ago, like semi-recently, called Metroid Dread, and there's some commotion over the fact that whatever company made it left out names out of the credits of some former staff. From what I understand, I haven't read that article, so you should just read the article yourself. But from what I understand, which may be informed inappropriately, these people were contracted workers essentially, and I don't actually know if it's standard to put contracted workers in credits. Wait a minute, no. Oh wait, I can't continue. This is one of my hot takes. I forgot. This is one of my hot takes. Okay, we'll save that for literally a couple minutes. I forgot. I was like, oh yeah, this is news. And because it's news, I took a particular comment about it from Reddit. Yeah, I forgot. So okay, well that's the premise. At least you know that. for later.
All right. So
yeah.
I'm kind of nervous because apparently my phone battery is draining faster than I got desperate, so I'm using my film battery, my camera's film battery to charge my phone as we're speaking. So, but it doesn't seem to charge as fast as it's discharging, so I'm kind of scared. So if I cut out again, whatever, it's a podcast, deal with it. So, yeah, okay. So yeah, do we want to finish off the news now, or do we want to just jump into the arguing with Reddit?
Doesn't matter to me. I don't know.
It's gonna be a joy to edit afterwards.
Actually, let me just go because I have to leave soon.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so welcome back to Mixed Media Live. This is our most special, unique arguing with Reddit series. Ignore what you see on the screen if you're watching the video where it says all about NFTs. That's because I didn't change the template properly when I was making it. A lot of issues today, but yeah. But what we're going to do is we're going to put Nathan through the paces of your terribly terrifying Reddit takes. That
very terrifying. Really just fun.
Yeah. And yeah, we're going to react to them. So without further ado, let's pick out the first one at random. Or this one's going to be the one that Nathan was just talking about in the news segment. So there it is. I'll blow it up, but you can explain it while I blow it up, Nathan.
Yeah, so essentially I'll repeat what I said, a little bit of what I said before, but Metroid Dread, the developers of... Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry, yeah. The developers of Metroid Dread, called Mercury Steam, are being criticized by some former members of the company because their names were not in the credits because they were ex-staff essentially. And so this particular take says, well, it starts off by saying, I guess it would be a controversial take, but I've been seeing is the response to this, and I really don't get it. I mean, sure, give people who didn't contribute more than 25% of the finished product a participation trophy. I guess who cares? But I really don't understand the vehement backlash to this. Isn't it possible that the studio doesn't see any use including credits for contracted out house staff who didn't have much to do with the finished product? With all the internal unknowns, I'm not sure if the backlash is justified. And work on a game and contributed less than 25%, even 30% of the final product, or final product of a certain department, and wasn't included in the credits, why should I care? As I said, as long as I was paid fairly, I see no utility in trying to be recognized for something I barely 25% or less contribute to. This feels more like an emotional knee-jerk reaction more than anything. For example, emotional appeals aside, would you allow someone on your school project team who works towards less than 25% towards the final product be recognized for its completion and success? Okay, so yeah, the thing is, my knee-jerk reaction was like, oh, it's kind of messed up, and I just started thinking, I'm like, 25%. And it brought me down like this rabbit hole thinking about how important are credits actually, and stuff like that. And I don't know, I really put like 2 seconds into thinking about it, so that question I can't can't answer right now. But 25% is a weird. I don't know what metric they're using, right? It's literally just the time spent. Like you take the time they were at the company and you divide it by the total time it took to make the game, and you're saying that's 25%. Well, what if their job was like, I don't know, some pre-production work, which is not going to it's only going to last pre-production, right? Of course, it's not going to last any significant amount of time relative to the whole project. Or I don't know if they were involved with say I don't know, certain types of artwork, right? Maybe they're a character designer. I mean, I think it would be unreasonable to expect that a character designer would be working throughout the entire game's lifetime for extremely, like, towards for the whole game. It's possible, definitely. I'm sure there are some games that do that, especially games that have their character designers not only work on like a couple characters, but a whole big, especially an open world game where there are a lot of different, a lot of variety in the people and stuff like that. But if you have a very simple game with a couple of characters or whatever, you wouldn't really expect a character designer to be working for a great amount of time relative to the total time the game's been in production. So I think it just maybe sort of depends. Maybe this should be based less on, less based on the time you contributed rather than the importance of what you contributed, right? So if that 20%, 5% was doing, really useful things, then yeah, maybe you should be put into the credits. It's also very strange because, on a larger game like this, right, Metroid Dread definitely had a large team behind it, given that it's a Metroid game, so this is how it's going to be. It's kind of weird because it's not like anyone's going to see your name, really, unfortunately. You know what I'm saying? In the whole long line of credits, it'll be seen by yourself and your family and your friends, pretty much, if they play it, right? And the credits for a game are not the same as credits for a movie. The credits of a movie are going to be shown no matter what, because when the movie ends, the credits show. Or sometimes at the start a little bit. But for a game, it depends. If it's a story game, it'll appear at the end of the story. Game stories are significantly longer than movie stories, and so they end up not being finished by a lot of players a lot of the times. For most games, of course, there are like 2-hour story games, but they're not very common at all. Especially on the scale where you have a lot of credits, where this would even be an issue. And games that are not story based tend to just have like the credits be instant menu. You have to explicitly go and click the credits button to see the credits. It's not like something they'll be forcibly shown to people upon finishing the game, because there's no finish to the game. It's not a story game, right? The game can be played indefinitely, essentially. Like Tetris, for example, right? When are you going to show the credits? There's no end point, I guess. So yeah, this is what I'd say about this. It's definitely interesting because game credits are inherently less valuable in a way to movie credits because they're not forcibly shown, and it really isn't like a lot of people are going to actually go and see them. So yeah, but of course, giving credit to people who did work is good. I guess it's kind of complicated. I'm not fully sure about my opinion on this, but I suspect it's not a crazily big deal. But perhaps credit is warranted. I don't know.
Right. I think I might have saved my phone from dying. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. In film, you decide these things well in advance who's going to get credit for what kind of completion in the industry, at least, because this is a huge point of contention.
One thing like deciding beforehand. I would assume, I hope that if you intend to be credited, that would be something that'd be in your contract. Contingent on you actually doing what you say you'll do, right? But if it wasn't in your contracts and you got paid for the work and stuff like that, I mean, you should have been complaining before, not now. Not after it's released.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything to add, Ben? Cool.
Sorry, it's hard to adjust things on your phone.
Did you have something to say? Sorry.
Oh yeah. No, I mean the credit question is, I mean, I don't know anything about video games, but like I think it's an important thing. I mean, even if nobody sees it, like, does anybody read the gigantic block of text? It's like the 10,000 like assistant, I don't even know what the positions are, but some kind of like editing assistant or whatever, animating assistant. Does anybody read like the 200 names in that block text? I mean, probably not. But I feel like if you've done something, you should be included in it. And this is an issue even in with like, why are musicians not credited in Hollywood?
That's a good point. Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
The guy that you can literally, the guy who's the like assistant to the composer can get in there, but the musicians don't. And there are, historic contractual reasons why that is. But does it really make sense? No. I mean, and some people honestly do care. Like, I'm honestly interested in who played on what score. And it's kind of difficult to find that information out otherwise.
Yeah, that's wild now that you say that, because every roto monkey who works at a VFX studio, every last person who's like etched out in any figure. If you look at a Marvel film and you look at the VFX credits, there's 10 studios and like 100 people who just credited as rotoscoping, which is it's kind of like the job you give lower level people. I'm not trying to give people shade at all. They deserve credit, but it's just wild that they get credit and musicians don't. That's actually insane. I'm going to change that. If I make a feature, they'll all be credited. There you go. I did that with Operation First Light. I didn't even realize that was abnormal.
It is not industry standard amongst the major studios.
I wonder if, because I was actually thinking before this whole podcast, when I found this hot take, I was like, oh, but they'll be credited on what is it called? Oh, it's not the same. Oh yeah, because there's like an IMDb equivalent for like games, but I don't know what it is. But I was gonna say, like, they'll be credited there. I'm like, will they even be credited there actually? If they're not credited in the game. I mean, actually, I'm thinking about it. I feel like they probably won't be credited there either. Which actually, I feel like that's worse because sites like that are like essentially your proof of work, essentially, right? So that you can go to another studio where you want to work at there. You'd be like, look at my line of work, and it's not like I'm just saying it. Like, you can just go on this website and it says my name. If you can't do that, then that's actually pretty bad for future job prospects. Not just future job prospects, just proving they've done it, essentially.
Yep. Cool. All right, next one.
Yep.
All right. Again, I will blow this one up, but I think this one is from Ben, it looks like. Oh, yeah, I combined yours, Ben, so that it is easily read. But if you can give us an idea.
Basically, the person asked a question about whether combining certain types of game styles, I suppose, or like, game types, game genres, whether there are some pairings that don't work very well. And they gave a specific example that I cannot remember off the top of my head. I think it was RPG and FPS combination, whether that is a genre combination that makes sense and it can work.
Yeah, it looks like RPG and FPSs as an example. And there's an interesting paragraph here. It says, I think the disparity behind the skill-based FPS mechanics are simply incongruent with our RPG stats, skills, and buffs. You either need to inflate enemies in order to make a variety of stats worthwhile, which causes bullet sponge enemies, blah, blah, or go the other direction and still have mechanics that something. I may have cut that out by accident. Yeah, there are some games that lean into the sci-fi side. Okay, blah, 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 blah. They're kind of just expounding on that idea. At first, I thought they were saying that there were no games like that. I was like, there are definitely RPG FPSs.
Yeah. I was thinking Destiny, and then he mentions Destiny.
Yeah, I was thinking about Borderlands.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that is a little bit of a different point. So what's your take?
On the FPS plus RPG thing specifically, disparity skill-based FPS mechanics are simply incongruent with RPG stats, skills, and buffs. Is bullet sponge enemies contrary to the skill-based FPS? Maybe it feels bad, is what they're saying. That doesn't mean that like it couldn't feel bad. You know what I'm saying? I get what they're saying. That actually, I'm thinking. Yeah, okay. I see what they're saying. In that, in general, the ways in which you create challenge in an RPG is different than the way you create challenge in an FPS. And I should specify for those who don't know, FPS is short for first-person shooter. RPG is short for role-playing game. That does not mean that's all role-playing games are RPGs. The term is very strange, or sometimes they are. It depends on the context. I actually didn't understand the context at first, but the context in this case is probably more akin to an MMORPG, which stands for massive multiplayer online role-playing game, which is not actually descriptive of what it is, but
it's a genre that has it's a genre that emerged historically, but has no meaning. It's very hard to peg the actual meaning of what it means because role-playing games is extremely broad because you could role-play in any game practically.
Yeah, pretty much. So, only not Tetris, maybe. I guess Tetris is not an RPG,
right?
In a literal sense, but yeah, most role-playing games are not RPGs actually. But yeah, in this case, the RPG that's being referred to. Yeah, the way you create challenge tends to be different than the way you do it in an FPS. I think an FPS is more broad in the ways you can create challenge, but an RPG is pretty strict and it's sort of incompatible in a way. Of course, he says notable example is Destiny. I think it's definitely doable. I think you just can't go the traditional FPS route. Essentially, you're gonna have bullet sponge enemies. That's just gonna have to be how it is, unless you figure out another way to create these sort of RPG elements in a way that doesn't require that, which I'm not really sure how you do that, while also still being in the FPS realm. As for other genres that I don't think would work together, I'm sure there are. Genres tend to be, it's weird because there are a lot of genres, right? Some of them are extremely broad, and I think would essentially work with anything else. But there's some very specific ones, I'm trying to think.
Idle games,
okay. Idle games and I would say first-person shooter, but I think you could do that. Well, actually, no, you can't, because an idle game requires that you're idle, and a first-person shooter requires that you're not idle. So yeah, idle game with many other genres would not work. Yeah, okay, sure. There are some literal contradictions in some definitions. As for things that are not literally contradictory, but probably wouldn't work. So such as he's saying FPS RPG, not literally contradictory, but probably wouldn't work. Yeah, there are probably some out there. But I feel this is like big guess with like not having, I'm on the spot here, so I can't like think about this for too long. This is a big guess, is that there's probably always going to be some way you can actually make an extremely fun game out of two broad category broad on the level of FPS and RPG games and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, I think as long as it's not contradictory, like because the moment it's not contradictory, there's probably so many options now. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's gonna be hard to have like just a mash of two genres that leads to like one or two options in a certain space. You're gonna end up having like a bunch of options now, right? And you're gonna be able to create a good game out of it somehow, even though it might be hard.
Yeah, in film, like, yeah, I can see what you're saying. Like, some things, like, we call different things genres, and I feel like some maybe I don't know, if you could probably get like dumbly pedantic in a way that's not helpful about genre. But there's a like character study is so broad, right? Like like what does it mean to have a character study? Well, you could mash that up in theory with like many genres versus like a buddy cop movie literally will contradict with I don't know, can't think of an example off the top of my head, but yeah, I see what you're saying. Like they're just definitionally opposed. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. All right. That was a good one. It was a thought-provoking one. Let's see. So the next one is from Producer Wife. Because again, I didn't.
Dude, I saw this in Discord. Like I was posted. I didn't read the whole thing. I try not to read these things before I see them. But like this one, I had no clue. I didn't even look at it. But this one, I just checked the channel. I saw the title, and I just like I was like, what? So all right, let's get into this one.
Yeah, so I'll read it, I guess. It says, the title is, again, on r/unpopular opinions, where you find many popular opinions.
This one's not popular, but this one's like mildly, it's popular as far as unpopular opinions, maybe. But.
Right, yeah. Right. It says, I hate indie games. They should not be supported, period. And then the description is, indie games feel so empty and always have little to no content for the money you pay. People always say to support indie developers, but let's be real, indie games are not as good as big AAA games, which are done by better teams and better graphics and more content than any indie game. No one can compare an indie game to any Nintendo masterpiece. I do not support indie. I do not support indie. And the only indie games I've played were pirated. Oh, no. Oh no!
You know what's contradictory about this?
Yeah.
This person has felt enough of an indie game that he wanted to play it, so he pirated it. And he also says that this is I don't know. I literally had this argument with someone like literally 2 days ago. They're like, "Well, I don't want to support the studio, so I'm gonna pirate this thing." I'm like, "Well, you want to play it, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, so." So they make something that you like, that you like, right? And you should encourage that behavior, correct?
Yeah.
So either it's bad and it's not worth it, or it's like good and then they deserve some money, right? Maybe you think it's too expensive or whatever. Which, spoiler, it's not, right? But then just pay them. Really not a big deal. Especially if you're well off in terms of money, you know what I'm saying? You can't even make the excuse of like, oh, I can't afford it, you know what I'm saying? If you really can't afford it, it's like, come on. Anyways, that's besides the point. Well, kind of is the point, because he just, in the last sentence, just destroys the whole argument and said indie games are worth playing. So, it's one of those things where, like, I don't know, man, do I even have to say anything? It's like...
But really it got like 100. I got like 150 upvotes or something. That's actually like, some people are vibing with this person.
Dude, I don't know. I must have paid them. I really don't get it. Yeah, no. He got ratioed so hard. 154 upvotes. That's and then 165 comments. That doesn't happen normally. There are way too many comments. They only got a good bit of downvotes there.
Says 65% upvoted.
Yeah, that's higher than I would expect, honestly. But okay. Okay, so I don't know. I don't even know where to start.
Well, like,
indie
I
games
mean,
feel so empty. Huh?
I was just gonna say, like, the first thing that, sorry about New York. The first thing about this that like bothered me is like I've never heard of an expensive indie game before. Like indie games
No,
tend to,
it literally made my like eyes open when you're reading that part. I'm like, there are a lot of free to play indie games though, right? So how can you even say they're really not expensive? They're literally $0.
like the,
Yeah.
the gap between AAA games and indie games is quite a large gulf. Like it goes from like paying $60 to $70 all and to like the average game is like probably less than $20 if for the priced games. Like $15 for like a small studio, people who overwork themselves.
Yeah.
So
People always say to support indie developers, let's be real, indie games are not as good as big AAA games. So his reasoning for this is better teams. Okay, Cyberpunk 2077 is something that happened actually. Think about that. Was that a better team? No. Okay. Maybe a lot of people were better, right? But at the core, right, the team did not function together well. Clearly, something happened. So, okay, we already ruled that out. And better graphics. And then he cites Nintendo. No. I've ever seen a Nintendo game, but maybe they are artistically pleasing in that they're stylized well, but they are no great show of modern technological graphical capabilities, certainly. They are well stylized. Oh, sorry for the phone in the background. But they're well stylized, and any indie game dev can also just stylize their game fine. You know what I'm saying? But the problem with the indie game developer is that they can't create something of great graphic fidelity in terms of going past the visual style. We're talking about like a technological problem, not a artist problem. So we cite Nintendo, which doesn't have it. Like they literally don't even try to solve the technological problem. They just make things that look nice via their artistic abilities. So I don't know. It's just like that's contradictory in itself. So I think that's all I have to say. I don't think there's any point in delving further into this.
just a reminder as well, Minecraft was an indie game. Just saying.
Oh, yeah, that's also true. Some of the most successful games ever, yes, were indie games at some point.
Yeah.
And some of the biggest flops, AAA games. I don't know. There's no way this guy would go and say Cyberpunk 2077 is greater than like Minecraft or something like that. I don't even like Minecraft that much. But like, at least it's functional. And it's Minecraft, so it's barely functional, but still more functional. So,
Yeah. It really parallels the one that Ben got last week or whenever about indie artists versus like, it's like, I mean, it's such a generalized statement,
yeah.
But yeah, better to say I have not had a good experience with such things yet.
I think it's the opposite. I think the one I had last time, the take was that in indie music is where all the authenticity is.
Oh yeah. It was the opposite extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, people, it can be in the middle. It's okay. You can like things for both spheres. It's okay. All right. Next segment.
All right. Well, I actually have to go, like, straight up. It's been a bit over time.
No worries. What time's your meeting? Like,
So my meeting's at 9 technically, but today specifically. So normally I can go up until 9 essentially, but today specifically I have to be there a bit earlier. So yeah.
gotcha. All right. Have fun.
All right. If I leave the Skype, will it break things? Like, do I just leave?
You'll freeze on my screen. Hopefully, it won't actually crash Skype. I'm not so sure. We'll see, but yeah.
All right. Well, all right. Nice talking to you guys. I guess I'll see you guys later.
See you later.
Yep.
All right, okay.
Bye.
The first time I actually talked about
Something happened. No. Don't crash. Wait, speak again, Ben? Oh no, I can't hear you. Scary.
I'm unmuted, so
Okay, now I can hear you. It freaked
okay.
out again for a moment, so I don't know what's up with Skype
Okay.
today.
Well, I was just saying that Nathan's missing the first time I actually talked about video game music.
That's true. That's terrible. That's terrible. Maybe you can give post comments later.
Yeah.
Here. Okay.
So, well, if you are watching after the fact, welcome to this segment here. We've already heard from Irving interviewed a aspiring filmmaker whose name I cannot recall,
Rob
and
Sharma.
there you go. And Nathan responded to some hot takes from the internet about video games, game design, and like I was saying earlier, I'm actually talking about video game music, but Nathan is not here. So today I want to talk a little bit about Austin Wintory and his music, specifically to the game Abzu, but just kind of in general, some stuff about him. So I haven't talked about video game music at all. We're ostensibly I'm talking about media music. I've kind of focused on film because that's the world I have participated in and know infinitely more about than the video game world. But I think it's important to talk a little bit about video game music. I'll try and keep this short. So I know we've gone on for a while, but some reasons why I think video game music is in general is worth talking about and thinking about. Just number one, because the video game industry, despite my ignorance of it personally, I'm pretty sure video game the market is eclipsed film by a significant amount, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's
And
massive.
yeah, and it will only continue to grow, and the need of music in all those games is going to grow as well. So not only is it an opportunity for people as composers and musicians to get into that, but also just a great opportunity for the art form to continue to grow. And it is a different kind of art form than film composition, even though I don't have any firsthand experience with it. I honestly, my feeling is that as a performer, I think that I'll probably, if I can do, session playing one day, it'll probably be more doing things in the video game world than in the film world for that reason as well. Yeah, but like I said, it's also worth talking about because like I said, it's a different art form, and it might not be obvious how it's a little bit different, but one way it's really different. You can see this in some Austin Wintory stuff. Is that a lot of times the structure of how these larger companies at least operate and involve composers is different than how it happens with film. The composers tend to be brought in earlier, and out of necessity too, for technological reasons as well. Making sure not only can you write the music, but it can loop in the places where it needs to loop, right? Which people aren't familiar, looping just means a section repeats because gameplay time is variable. You can play for different amounts of times. You can stay in the same area for different amounts of time, unlike a film, which is point A to point B. So a composer needs to be brought in earlier so they can work through all those things with the game designers. And because they get to be brought in earlier, and Austin Wintory is a really great example of this, the art gets a little bit more of a chance to develop and breathe. It's not something that's rushed, as a lot of film composition tends to be. So again, looking more specifically at Austin Wintory. So he's kind of my favorite video game composer. I don't know as many video game composers, just because we tend to not think about video game composers even in the media world quite as much. we're all focused on film and TV, and there's just not as much recognition publicly either. Not that there's a great recognition of film composers, but even less for people who are doing video game things. So I don't know nearly as many. I don't, people who are really active in the video game industry. So I don't, have a great like depth in that area. But Austin Wintory has really stood out to me for some of his games. He's done some of the Assassin's Creed games, and then some of his like I'm going to forget a whole bunch of things that he's done. We kind of a lot of some like smaller things, things like I recently did a game called The Pathless, which is quite interesting musically. This game I'm going to talk about a little bit about called Abzu, which I think is this kind of sequel in a way to a game by the same studio called Journey, which is again very highly regarded. I understand. I haven't played any of these.
The game
things.
Journey, or is the studio's name Jim? Oh yeah, Journey was a big phenomenon because it pushed. That was a while ago. I can't even remember when that came out, but the significance of it was big because it was a very palpable shift for the mainstream towards a more artistic approach to video games in general, which I thought was glorious. So yeah.
Right. And he's really, Austin Wintory is really associated with these more artistic games that, like, from what I understand, generally revel more in like artistic beauty and like thematic things than action, like, intensity. So maybe that's partially why his music is so appealing to me. Obviously, things like Assassin's Creed would be a little bit different than that, but his music for that is also fascinating. Maybe that's a whole.
I've probably heard some pieces from him like years. I don't even remember, but like, I've never played an Assassin's Creed game, but I actually have intentionally listened to the score because someone told me to. I think someone recommended that I did because they liked it, and I remember liking it, but I don't remember it at all. So
okay, yeah. So the other really cool thing about him is that he's very active, not so much on social media, but on like his YouTube channel. And some of this, I think, is because, again, the nature of how video game studios operate. They're not, they don't, at least with him, they're not so concerned with intellectual property and like keeping things hidden and locked up. So, if you go, he has his own podcast, which is fascinating to listen to. Very active in that sort of thing, just talking, his thoughts on music and art in general. It's a lot you can learn from that if you're a, someone interested in the industry, not just video games, but in general. He also puts out a lot of his scores, like the notes themselves on his YouTube channel with his comments. And he has like extensive comments on some of these games like Abzu, which is really, really fascinating to read. There are people who, have resources out there where you can like, oh, here's how I mixed this track or something like that. And that's interesting. But with him, he doesn't talk about that sort of stuff, but his commentary on his own process and like how he works with the game designers and whatever is really fascinating because you really get into his mindset, like what sorts of things he's thinking about when he's composing. It's very different than like on a technical level, how do I mix and master something, which is normally the kind of stuff you can find online. So really, really interesting person if you are at all interested in media composition to check out. And I'm going to kind of draw from some of his comments on the game Abzu to think about what I think what's so great about it. So again, I haven't played the game, but my understanding of it is that it's kind of you're playing as this female diver who is going through this underwater world and interacting with different animals, and you have to kind of restore like balance between underwater life and the advancements of civilization, and it's like roughly based on some ancient Sumerian text. Yeah, and one way that I think he had 3 years over which he worked on this, according to his comments. And one way you can see that, like, the result of having 3 years to work on this instead of like 3 months to write the whole thing, like this tends to be typical with film, is that he's very intentional about every element of this fantastic score. He, for instance, he takes a lot of lines from this ancient Sumerian religious text, and he has the choir sing it throughout, but like draws out each syllable so much that it just sounds like a wash of like pitch, not like any individual syllables, not that we would understand Sumerian text anyway, but that's kind of hovering around in the background. His scores also tend to be very kind of a combination of ambient with a lot of melodic stuff in an orchestral setting, kind of a sparse or orchestral texture melody, but also a lot of ambient stuff, which is kind of a little bit of an unusual mix. And I think Abzu is maybe the score that he does best with that. Journey is also very good, and the Pathless as well. Pathless in particular, he does something where he puts out like one of his tracks from the previous game and asks people to play their own take on it, and like whoever they want to. And if he takes like the 3 most interesting people and asks them to collaborate on the next track, so like the Pathless is all these people playing very interesting different like world instruments.
That's so cool.
Contributing. Yeah, it's very, very cool that he does that. Abzu also has a lot of kind of obscure instruments mixed in with the orchestra. And if you read his commentary on his YouTube channel on Abzu, yeah, he's very, very deliberate about everything he does. He's deliberate with he wants the 2 main voices to be this oboe solo, and then this combination of a choir singing with 10 harps. And you can read all sorts of interesting stuff about how he kind of recorded the 10 harps, and that's a whole acoustical problem and whatever. So he's very, very intentional about that. There's like the spirit realm which you go off to that has the harps and the choir. And at the start of the game, when you enter there, it's heavily filtered with all sorts of digital post effects. But as you go on in the game, you get less of that, and it's more natural. Just by the end, it's just the instruments and the voices without any processing. And then there's the kind of oboe and orchestra, which is the voice of the main character, and the undersea world. So and I could go on, but you really just watch his own video for all the like very, very intentional choices he and the game designers are making about like this instrument here, does it reflect the psychological state we want you to feel, whatever. So very intentional in a way that film composers really just don't have time to be intentional about, even if people do try to do these things, but it's just not enough time. So I don't know, I find that really, really interesting, and it's a really effective score. Even if you haven't played the game like I have, you can just listen to it, and like it's so beautiful. And I know he says that's kind of the intent of the game, for it to mostly be about beauty and mystery, and not be about fear and those sorts of emotions, and like it challenging. It's not supposed to be a challenging game. You're supposed to just kind of be immersed in like the beauty of nature and like wanting to restore nature. And again, it's so effective. His writing too, his themes tend to be very has very small melodic cells, normally 2 to 4 notes that he kind of expands on, but it's kind of core of very, very small core. And that's kind of in contrast to a lot of people who are going to write melodically, who tend to write long lines. John Williams, it tends to be really long lines. It's kind of interesting because I sort of find myself as a composer in between that, where I like shorter things, more like what he tends to do, but in more of a Williams orchestral dressing, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. It's a really interesting style to kind of take that kind of not minimalist approach, but like more minimalist approach, but also be really melodic with it, and also be so colorful with orchestra and different playing around with different post production effects. Yeah, so overall, it's very really kind of unique musical voice. A very intentional musical voice about everything he's doing, and I find it really effective. I honestly, as a flute player, I would love to play on one of his video game scores. I think like I'd love to be involved with John Powell, which will probably never happen, and Austin Wintory, which is somewhat more likely because he, video games are all in Nashville, which is a little bit more of an accessible spot to
maybe my future home city. We'll see.
I don't know. I would love to play on one of his video game scores. They're just so beautiful overall, and really beautiful textures. So I would definitely check out his YouTube channel and his podcast, which is also on there. And he also has videos that are just like, basically video essays where he talks about different things. So he's really a great resource as a composer, very active in that sense. Also, like I said, very willing to collaborate with people, inviting people who played his own, done their own versions of his own music onto his future scores. And I think his musical voice is really worth checking out, especially if you are not as familiar with the video game musical world.
Yeah, that's super cool to hear. I hope you get more into gaming more, because I would love to hear more like of the contrasts and like process and flow and stuff like that. I would love to hear more about that, because I don't know. Obviously, Nathan's the person who knows about that kind of stuff, but it's always interesting to hear like the behind the scenes more of this kind of stuff. So
yeah, I know a little bit, but like you really need to know different kinds of technology to be able to like handle loops and things like that. And also just, from what I understand from him too, like a narrative sense of like, well, he talks about certain points where like a player can linger here, but we want to kind of direct them to not spend like 2 hours in this place and move on to the next thing. So how do you like subtly use music to help hint that they should move on? So, that kind of stuff.
I've actually played some bad games where that's done poorly, where I feel like the music is like trying to like a good example is you enter an enemy in, let's say, Borderlands or something like that, enter an area with enemies all around, and all of a sudden you get that like fast-paced sort of action music but then like you're just passing through. Like in certain games, you don't have to engage with whatever challenge you're presented with. So like it just feels weird when you're like, I already know I'm passing through here, but the game is like, get ready to fight. Is the music is what the music is telling you. Or there's some other games where it's a little awkward in different ways too, where it just feels too programmatic. Like I can feel the programming playing the music, if that makes sense, like cueing the music up. Whereas there are some other games that are a lot better at that, where I never feel that way. Like I feel totally immersed, and I guess that's probably a good symbiosis happening with the composer and the game studio, the other team members of the game studio.
Yeah.
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 So, yeah.
He talked a lot too about like, where he and the game designers want the music to kind of tell the story, and where they don't want it to, when they want other elements to be telling it. And again, just very intentional, a lot of care into every detail. It's very, very interesting to read his thought process on that sort of thing.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of games, they'll opt for like very generic sounding stuff a lot of times, or it sounds too maybe it's, I haven't played many games as of late, so a lot of my references are like from when I was in high school or something, or playing games then. So I don't know how things have changed or evolved, but like I feel like back then I remember feeling like the music was very cartoony and like underdeveloped in how it interacts with the game and stuff, whereas like a game like The Last of Us has a tremendous score. It's an acoustic guitar based score, but it's one of the best games ever created, in my opinion. The best game I've ever played. I refuse to play the second game because I don't want my world to be destroyed by what people say about that game. But that's a tremendous game, and listening to oh man, I can't remember the composer / guitarist's name, but him talk about it. It's like, that's how I would like gaming to go in general. A lot more intentional, less like, how do we test this skill in this? I mean, there's depending on the genre in the game, there's going to be some of that, but it's not like games need to be a test anymore. It's not like we're in Tetris era anymore with that. So it's nice to hear that things are still progressing in that direction. It's good to hear. Yeah. I was gonna ask, like, are there people in LA doing that kind of stuff, or like, I don't know what the demand looks like around.
Well, I think there are people who probably score these things, but a lot of the recording tends to be in Nashville, and from what I have gathered, a lot of the people tend to live in Nashville too, just because that's more centrally located, also to like where game studios are. I guess Seattle too is also a place where people do that. It's not quite as big in LA.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. All right, is that it?
That's my attempt to keep this segment short. So
cool. Yeah. Yeah, so thank you guys for watching. Before we go, I've just noticed that... Oh, pause for the bikes of New York, of course. People riding dirt bikes in the middle of the street. Why not? Okay, there we go. Mostly. But before we go, I wanted to shout out a new person on Locals. I know that you're not a supporter, but I just appreciate that you joined the page. So shout out to D_White for joining our Locals page. We've got a few people who are not just us there now, which is awesome. I'm not sure exactly what to post there that should be available to everyone. I might just essentially use it like Instagram and just post like, the stuff I post Instagram there as well, so that you get, because if you have the app or you have your email connected up, then you'll get a notification for when we post something. So maybe that'll be a nice way for you to understand, oh, hey, we're going live at 7 p.m. today, and here's what we're talking about. stuff like that for the people who are on there for free. But other than that, if you want to keep the conversation going, link in the description to our Discord. It's a fun place. I've been kind of on and off with how often I post there, but I'm trying to post there more. We talk about all things games, music, and games, music, and film. That's what I do, film, on there throughout the week, and we can continue the conversations that we're having here now. So yeah, we're here every Friday at 7 p.m. See you next week. All right. Bye.